Welcome to The Author Next Door, where hosts Angela Haas and Cassie Newell chat about the wild world of writing and publishing. Join them for weekly episodes and special monthly guests. Pull up a chair. The conversation starts now.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Cassie Newell, and with me is Angela Haas. This is our introduction and inaugural episode for The Author Next Door. We're so happy you're here. Let's sit at the table and chat about who we are and what you will love about this podcast. So first, I'm going to kick it off to my co-host, Angela Haas, to give an introduction and background of who she is.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. My background is actually in the world of retail, and my husband and I have owned brick and mortar retail businesses in Colorado for the past 30 years. And I've worked my way up through that company, being a retail buyer, a gallery buyer, book buyer, merchandiser, manager. I still do trainings and I still do marketing for that business. So that is kind of counting as my day job. What I also did once I finished my master's in communication and organizational leadership was went into teaching college level classes for University of Colorado at Colorado Springs and teaching mass media, public speaking, which was one of my favorite classes to teach, and business and professional communication. Once COVID hit, enrollment died down a little, and then decided to pull back from that career and go back into helping more manage the retail side of the businesses, but also my author career. So started with one book published and now have 3 books published, have an audio book coming out, and now doing this podcast with my lovely co-host. So Cassie, tell us about you. What can we learn about you?
Sure. So I'm Cassie Newell. I write nonfiction and coach writers under the Sassy Writing Coach platform. And I also write fiction as CM Newell for YA fantasy and poetry. And I'm leaning into romance as well as CK Darling. And I'm writing short romance that's launching here in 2025. So I think we're both doing the romance thing here in 2025. Yes. How fun is that? I love it.
That's fun. I forgot to actually say that. But yes, I've been writing superhero fiction and my first romance is coming out this month. So yeah, probably good to know as well.
Yeah. And they're really good. So
yours are really good.
Thank you. We're going to gush over each other every now and then.
Yeah.
That's
just
a thing.
Prepare.
So, and in my other life, if you will, my day job, I work in clinical research in the pharmaceutical industry, and I have been here for over 25 years. My background is in project management and leadership. I tend to be very active with that job and with my colleagues, and I love that work. I have 2 daughters who are basically grown and flown, as Angela has said in the past about her stepsons, but I have a daughter 24 and a daughter 19 who's in college. And yeah, I live in Florida, just south of Tampa, Florida. And that's a little bit about me. So let's just roll right into what listeners can expect for this podcast. I know actually this is your brainchild. So talk about that a little bit and what you're hoping listeners will get out of this podcast.
For me, once I published my first book, which is First Strike, Keepers of the Universe, Book 1, might as well. I felt like I passed through that gate, and then all of a sudden, like the marketing advice comes at you full throttle, but then you're supposed to still be writing and creating. You're supposed to be getting 6 books out because then no one will notice you unless you have 6 books. And it just started to like pile up on me. And I really was seeking out advice for authors like me, which I will refer to as feeling like I'm in this awkward sophomore year of my indie. If indie publishing was a high school, I feel like I'm an awkward sophomore because I'm not starting from zero, but I'm not, I still have a lot to learn. And I was seeking out resources for authors that felt this, for me, from authors that maybe were in the same situation, but I think it's a little harder to find. I'm not saying it's not out there,
Right.
but there seems to be a lot more resources if you're just starting out. So what I wanted to do was create a podcast where we kind of share the experience that we have, because we have, I mean, I've learned a lot. I keep saying we, but I don't want to speak for you, but I've learned so much publishing the first 3 books and now going into audiobooks, now into podcasting. And I've built up a pretty good network, but still have a long way to go. So if I can help other authors who are maybe feeling the same way and share my knowledge, bring in special guests, which is something authors can expect from this podcast, we're going to kind of have, rounds at our table where we're having conversations about topics that refer to a monthly theme that we're having, but then we're going to bring in special guests here and there to really enhance our conversations. So that's a little bit about what they can expect and about my why. What about you, Cassie? Why were you excited to do this, and what can listeners, do you think they'll get out of this? Why will they love this podcast?
So when you approached me about it, I was just like, oh, I get to have fun with my friend.
Yes.
And I get to give back to the community. I think I've been published since 2016, a little bit more water under my bridge, but not a lot. And yeah, I feel that way as well. What can I learn? What can I give back to the community? And I just kind of enjoy meeting people and expanding my network. I thought this would be great fun, right? 2 friends getting together, chit-chatting about the industry, as well as talking to guests. We're doing this weekly. And we also have some business topics to discuss. And probably, I don't think we're going to have anything controversial, but you never know with us.
You never know.
You never know. And this month, we're talking about mindset. So with that, I know this is January and goals are always prevalent in most creators and authors' brain banks when January starts. So I thought, as a part of our introduction and just giving you a flavor of what this podcast will be about, we're just going to dive right into every topic each week. And then at the end of the episode, we have this fun table talk so you get to know us a little better if you want to stick around for that. But let's just go ahead and do that flavor, if you will, and talk about goal setting. So Angela, as a writer, where you are today and all the things that you have going on and your releases, what are your goals this year for 2025?
I don't know. Do I? Yes. That's basically how I'm approaching goals. I really think I'm still trying to reflect on 2024, to be honest, and really looking back at what worked and what didn't. And I'm still doing some analysis there. But I think for me, my goal is just to produce more content. I feel like I don't want to say, my go-to is just to say, well, the mistake I made, but I need to be, one goal I have is to be kinder to myself and give myself a little grace. I'm super competitive. And so when I feel like I made a mistake, I really get down on myself. But I published book 1 and then just spent so much time and money marketing that one book, which I think is helpful. You still, I believe personally, you have to still build your platform. You can write and produce books, but if you don't market them at all, there's no one waiting for your next book. I don't want to say no one. You know what I mean? So I need to find that balance. And my goal, a goal I do have is finding that balance between producing and marketing, but not marketing so much that I'm not still writing. I need to get into a zone where I'm actively writing and producing versus just spending all my time marketing. I have many goals, but I think focus might be a key word, production, another key word, and balance. Let's say that those are my 3 key words centered around my goals.
That's interesting. I love that.
What are your goals for this year?
I love that 2025 brings about reflection, right, for 2024. And for me, 2024 was kind of a crazy year in that my launch of a poetry book was all for me. It was this creative endeavor and it did really well. It wasn't the intention that it was a marketing genius thing. Poetry does not sell well. to my knowledge. And it was just something I was doing for myself, but it's something I want to keep doing. For
That
me,
poetry book is beautiful, by the way.
thank you.
More gushing. But yeah, no, I have it. It's stunning. So just FYI for everyone.
If anybody's watching on YouTube, I'm like 3 shades red now. But what occurred in the summer of 2024 was kind of this reevaluation of what I enjoy writing as a result of poetry. And it was romance. And I ended up writing short romance. So one of my big goals for 2025 is leaning into short romance, and I'm launching a new pen name and doing all the things. And I am working very hard at trying to flood the market. So you'll be sick of me in that respect. I also look at it as an opportunity of learning too, because it's a new genre. Even though I read a ton of romance, doesn't mean I'm always present in the market in the same way. And I think there's always a disconnect with creators when they read a lot, consume a lot to learn that they have the experience in that production side. And they're two very different things. For me, my kind of keywords, I'm looking for abundance and building and growth because I'm looking at a new direction for my fiction. I would love to stay in young adult because it was my first love. It was my first why, 2016. But I've evolved and my why has changed a little bit. That's kind of where my goals are directing me. And yeah, I can't wait. It's exciting stuff, right? Actually, when this airs, my first book will launch, Angela.
Wow.
So
Hello.
that's just kind of crazy, right?
That's great.
I'm looking forward to 2025. I'm a little nervous, like anyone, and excited at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Cool.
how would you, I was just going to say, how would you advise writers to set goals? Like, are there certain aspects that you've learned through your career that have been advantageous to you when you start looking forward at all that you would advise, say, someone who's just started or has done a book or two when they're setting their goals? Because you talked about balance too. That was kind of something that hit me in the ear when you said that.
Yeah, I think it depends on the author. For me, balance means setting realistic goals. I think it's always better to start simply and build rather than start, go big or go home, and then burn out. And that's what happened to me. So right now, I just try to have, break them down to, of course, like yearly goals, but I kind of put those away because goals shift. And so, and we don't want to say, well, I set this goal in January and then I didn't make it because I went off in this direction. And then you feel like discouraged because you didn't meet your goals.
Great
I
advice.
put like the yearly goals as like, it would be great if this happened, but focusing on more micro where I'm like, okay, what do I need to accomplish today, this week, this month? And keep it simple for me because I was out there like, I need to do 20 things today. And then I just burned myself out. Realistic goals with word counts and marketing. Once I see that I am checking off boxes, it gives me a lot of energy and then I keep going. So that's how I'm doing it. What about you? What do you think you would tell listeners?
It's interesting because I like quarterly planning because I like that flexibility that you're talking about, the balance, because things shift, things change, day jobs, pressures, family, all the stuff. So that's helpful for me, but I love having target goals through the year so that I can keep track of where I'm at. But it does free up the pressure because I call myself a weekend warrior too, right? Yeah. Because we can't write all the time during the day. Neither one of us are full time at this gig, if you will, this creative gig we love. I like annual goals. I also note for me, I do go down to kind of a weekly goal too. And I have to see my goals because if I fold them up in my iPad on my planner and I'm not seeing it, I just kind of forget it. Right. Whatever priority is taking over for the day will just take over my day. So I've learned, little tricks for me going forward, but I do like to plan out the year. I do have a specific plan, but I'm okay with adjusting that plan too if it's not working. So, yeah, I think it's helpful for our listeners to kind of hear both sides of that and really lean into their personalities, right? What works for them too, because sometimes you need to be more flexible, pivot, quit things, change things around. So goals are tough. I think we all have the best intentions come January. And then what is it they always say in the gyms and stuff, like the attendance slows down by March or whatever that is. I definitely have that. I've seen that in myself in the summers. Like it's usually really low for me in the summers because there's so much activity with family members and all the things that you want to do and your vacations and stuff like that. So, yeah. So
Great points.
yeah, let's do a little table topic. And get to know one another and get our listeners to know one another too, because these are fun.
Yes. Yeah. Before we dive in, so table topics, for those who don't know, it is a real game and it's there's just a box of cards and they're conversation starters and they're great. They have all kinds of themes, but they're great just to dinner parties, game night with friends, family. You're snowed in during the holidays. These are great little conversation starters. So let's see. Looking at them and just pick from the pile. Okay. Would you rather be lucky or wise?
Lucky or wise? Well, I feel like I'm wise, not always so lucky already. I don't know. Do I have to go first on that?
I think I'd rather just be wise because then I think you create your own luck.
Such a valid point. There you go. Is it awful if I go ditto?
No, I don't think so. But I think then, okay, how about 3 facts about you that people don't usually know?
3 facts about me. Well, in my introduction, I didn't talk about my animals, but I have rescue cats that live in our house, and we have our dog who's an English lab. But one funny fact about one of the cats we rescued, this cat, my oldest daughter says, cats adopt you. Well, she chose Allison and adopted her, and she was in our yard. She was emaciated, and super tiny little kitten. And these turkey vultures, which are known around Florida, saw her in our yard. And we were leaving for lunch and they were circling and she was kind of hiding, but she saw us and she was coming out. And I yelled at Allison, slam on the brakes, popped out of that car, scared them all away, scooped her up and put her in our lanai so that she was protected. And from then on, she became Mittens. And one cool fact is that she's a pterodactyl cat, meaning she's got thumbs, hence the name Mittens, kind of stuck because she has mittens. So that's a fun fact about me. I am a pet, advocate and rescuer if it's in my power to do such. Another fun fact is that I'm an artist, and in my poetry book, I did all the artwork for it. I actually went to college on an art scholarship before I had that long talk where is art a hobby or a career choice? And I chose science after, but now I do both. So there you go. And a third fact about me is I met my husband at the age of 19.
Wow.
And we were engaged for 4 years before we got married. And we've been together well over 25 years now. What are your 3 facts?
I don't like Brussels sprouts at all or bananas. I can't stand it. I can't stand mushy tomatoes. I'm like a texture thing with food. I can't eat mushy tomatoes. I did audition for one of the very early Survivor seasons.
Oh, yeah.
And I had I borrowed my friend's python and had it around my neck. And I was just trying to talk like I didn't notice the snake crawling in my hair. And I thought it'd be really cool. But of course they didn't pick me. But I did audition because I was obsessed with that show when it first came out. And I thought because, it was a little more strategic, I think, than it is now. But the people just fascinated me. And also, I don't like scary movies. I don't.
You're going to put a snake around you?
You know what? I'm not afraid, as far as phobias, I'm not afraid of snakes. I can't live part-time in Arizona. The scorpion thing is like beyond. Like I can handle spiders. I can't do scorpions. So the snake didn't bother me for some reason. It's not a fear, but I just have such an active imagination. I just can't watch scary movies because
Yeah, I don't need that
yeah,
in my
I
brain
can't.
either.
I can't do scary movies. I don't do horror at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love it at all. And it's interesting because my daughters will be like, yeah, you can't watch that one, Mom. Like I'll try sometimes because they'll talk about the storylines, which have gotten a lot more developed over time.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, I don't need that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, this is lovely. This is a kind of a short episode. We anticipate episodes are about 30 minutes with our guests, which we're so excited about.
Right.
They will run around 30 to 45 minutes. So with that, we're going to kind of wrap up. And
Yes.
I just want to say thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to give us a review and a rating wherever you listen to this podcast. It really helps us out with visibility. And that way we can reach authors who are in the same boat who might have interest. And we hope you enjoyed this chat today. Next week, we're diving right in and talking about managing self-doubt. With that, till next time, keep
Till
writing.
next time, keep writing, keep moving, keep doing.
Thanks for joining today's episode of The Author Next Door. Be sure to like, follow, and tell us your thoughts of this week's episode. Angela and Cassie would love to hear from you.